Hello and welcome to the Pythagoras channel. Here's my new Ko-fi link here. I'll get to that much later. And before I begin, I'll just say that it's been a while. I'm still alive and I'm still making content, and I'm not getting much attention by those that want. It's always negative attention that I seem to attract, but I'll hopefully change that one day. And there's a Discord link in the bottom for those who are willing to pass a test to join my Discord to talk about anything concerning valid criticism upon my book. But anyways, I've replaced Alethea with Arche, Stoicheia with Agathos or To Agathon, and Synailema with Adioristos. I've also removed the Harmonious Holotherion, as upon further introspection deemed to be an untenable delusional paradigm to even suggest a middle term as the fourfold logic of retroduction, abduction, deduction, induction as its own paradigm for ultimate truth is above and beyond logical predicate chopping to begin with. So it's pre-predicated, and while the failure to attain that truth just leads to the descent towards the second and third Plotinian hypostasis. And here's the older page, and this section is still generally correct. This section has some terms that needs to be switched around, but overall not that much different since the last time. And here's a slight close-up. And here's the ISOs page, version of the book. You could see I changed some of the formatting of some of the text-heavy sections. Barely touched this one. It's mostly as is. Changed a lot in this page here. A lot of stuff has been crammed into one single page. Mostly math stuff, of course. There's this. I'll just say that there's no importance of sequential order concerning the inevitable, irreducible, irrefutable, or whatever. It's just generated here just to convey what verifiable means, which is the brackets and the one, which is inevitable and irreducible. So that's how you read these symbols, as well as sort of these symbols, but this is more concerning the fourfold dialectic, or the tetralemos logismus that I put in the book. This page barely changed. If anything, I don't think it's changed. This is all the same. Not sure if you guys saw this before, but I'm showing you again on screen. But most of this it's just me try to reconstruct what Buckminster Fuller has tried to convey in his synergetics book, but it's mostly just a thought experiment of mine of how should I isometrically represent some of these stuff. And I've stopped at the 73 degree circles since it's getting very hard to try to cram 73 circles is the 73 circles in one single image. So there's also a higher number great circle, but generally this is as far as I'll go, because it's isometric symmetric composite of the whole vector equilibrium, and it doesn't account for all the possible symmetries within it, which if I did that, it would be like 121 great circles, which is redundant and is unnecessary actually, because if there's sufficient symmetry of the vector equilibrium, then you don't need to add more to it, right? So that's generally the reason why I stopped at 73. Like, you could try to add more and more and try to expand this yourself, and that's fine and dandy, but I only really cared about the five platonic solids in relation to the sphere, which will only barely need 15 of them, 15 great geodesic circles, great circles, which happens to correlate to a specific shape here, this Diakis tricontahedron. But I don't really care about the I don't really care about the big the Archimedean solids and the Cantalian solids and the Goldberg variations. And I'm not quite sure if I said that right, but anyways, it's more of a thought experiment to the bare minimum of how to two-dimensionally represent a three-dimensional object in an isometric perspective, no less. And these points are used to form the ellipses. So if these points don't make sense, then you just gotta mess with it. You just gotta mess with GeoGebra more and learn how to make ellipses. So you need 2 points and a third one to make this ellipse, and you just gotta know how to derive these things for itself. But most of it is already in here if you are very careful in how to do this yourself. But if you really want to learn how to do this yourself, it's better off just trying 3D GeoGebra and using a 2D projection of the 3D in GeoGebra. But that's completely irrelevant thing to this channel, that I'm trying to pivot towards metaphysics stuff more so than the math stuff. Which, speaking of math, this is how pi is approximated. So tan pi over 4 is 1, tan pi over 8 is this, etc. And you can see the general formulas done for each case. So this top corner relates to this top corner, and vice versa for this bottom right corner correlates to this bottom right part of the circle. And I'm just gonna move on because this is how mainstream does it, but you know what I feel about these things. Well, at least some that asked what I feel about it. And here's how the variable equilateral polygon via Archimedes spiral would look like. It's using the sections of it, or equal sections of a line, and just draw it out like that. I think it's one of Daly's theorems, triangle theorems, I think. And if you do that for a whole rotation and divide the sections, a certain section of it correlates to a certain part of the Archimedes spiral, which if you do it for a full 360 division, so if you partition, to be specific, if you partition a line equally to whatever nth number sections, then there's a nth polygon that correlates to the angles that it touches upon the Archimedean spiral. And this is the heptagon construction via tomahawk. This is the tomahawk. This line is 1, this line is 2, could be any line, as long as this part touches this part touches, or wait, these two part touches the whole of the angle. This point and this point will be the trisection angles. And this is Joe Nymers, I think, doubling the cube. I didn't find any of this. They did it. Okay. I just found generally these things to be interesting because they're technically answered by mathematicians in the past, and there are solutions, but it's not a solution that Plato would like, but it doesn't mean it's incorrect in a sense. So in short, I don't really care about like what Plato thinks about when there's really lots of reasons to not consider his arguments to be even meaningful in every circumstance that he brings up, which in this case you just have to be verifiable, attributive, non-contradictive, and mind independent to have a concept to be well formed, which this math stuff exercises are just a exercise of implementations of these thoughts. So their math has no direct relation to philosophy, which, even though it's helpful for philosophy, it could also be hard to think outside of the mathematical frameworks. But that doesn't mean that things that defy mathematics suddenly being viable philosophically speaking, which is why it's helpful to learn both so that you could understand what your biases are and where there's no ontological reference concerning certain concepts that doesn't actually exist, like actual infinities, for example. There's no actual infinities, but there's perhaps a potential infinity, but that's more of a theological paradigm, and it's not about a extrinsic emanationistic infinities, which is actual infinities. But I digress. Let's move on. This are all old stuff mostly. I just changed up the formatting. Here's also old stuff. This, I'm not sure if I showed it before, but it's also kind of complicated and exhausting to explain, but this correlates to this, but it's using, so this upper right angles and lengths and whatnot, arc lengths, are contrasted against this bottom left values, and it's being compared against the prime versions of the non-prime values. And just moving on already, and here's the irreducible, inevitable, irrefutable, participatory, unity, yada yada. I only changed this part mostly, but mostly unaffected. This is mostly unaffected. This is updated with new terms that I preferred. This page, very complicated to explain, and don't mind the arrow directions in this. It's only to convey the arrow direction of the whole graph, but there's only two paths really. There's a dark line path and the dotted line path. So here I'm tracing out the direction that the black path is going, and now the dotted path. Alright, you could just stare at it and carefully analyze these things for yourself. And I'm not sure if I'll keep this, but it's already updated on the page. And this page, or this corner of this page, used to be a a page of its own, but I shrank it down. Basically, I just slapped it in this corner of this page. And let me just read these out. The two lights, two darknesses, transcendent presence, present imminence, imminent absence, absent transcendence, active potentiality, presence, active actuality, immanence, passive actuality, absence, passive potentiality, transcendence. Alright, and this color in the center of this, the two lights, two darkness color scheme is the same as the soul color scheme, which is the same as L15 over here. And so these 5 colors correspond to this, but this is more of a simplification of this. So this bigger circles tone or shade, I don't know which, is not using any of these colors here, or shades or tones. And I've changed the formatting on the general life lessons page. You could just read it yourself. It's not that big of a deal, really. I've also changed the formatting for the Buddhology primer. It's still the same, but I've fixed all the very slight typos and formatting, and I've also changed that pentagram page to fit the newer terminologies and made it look better generally. And here's that page again with the agatos, nanke, arche, aporetos, aoristos, adioristos. And here's this page again, the last page of the square circle with the area circle and the perimeter area square and the perimeter square of the circle, with the triple colors or the rainbow colors in 3 gradients, so to speak, and the black eye pupil with the gray square thing between the area and perimeter squares, and the noise background. And that's it for the Nanke logos section of this video. I'm gonna show you that there's, look at that, this bar, it's like 3/4 of this is just scroll down to all of my previous versions. If you want me to just remove all the old versions for some reason, let me know. So if you click on, if you go all the way to the bottom, bottom before the pages section, you'll see there's a next article thing coming up. So I'll just show you that. So on transmigration and rebecoming, here's this article. I've been updating these articles and they're not 100% done, and any work is any model work 100% done. I don't think so, to be honest. There's always room for improvements in conveying certain things. And well, you could read it for yourself. It's what I think about transmigration and rebecoming and certain terminologies, but I'm still updating this. And here's this page on space, void, receptacle, location, ether, distance, etc., or on physical sciences, which I discuss various other terms. But I'll also update some of these, and have been updating, especially the orthomolecular stuff, which, if you don't know what's orthomolecular, you don't know much concerning health. And from that page, there's the next article, which is on that one overrated symbol, which is me talking about that specific symbolism, which you could see for yourself here. And I talk about why it couldn't be this or that, and generally disappointing conclusion in general, but it's still, I think, necessary that people should really realize that it's not a big deal, really. And then my most recent article is the metaphysics article, which is also being updated whenever I've realized there's better ways to convey certain concepts. And it's still not completely fixed, so to speak, but there's a whole lot here, but I'm not gonna talk about all of that in this video, as it's a lot, really. It's like probably be like at least 2 hours of explaining myself in here if I try to explain what certain parts of it means. And that's basically it. And if you wanna donate stuff to me, you could do it on my Ko-fi page. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.